Do you think it's just another layer of divide and conquer? I feel my personal belief is that every 6 months they're just like, what's the next characteristic trait that represents a human that we can divide and conquer? They go from race to religion, and now it's on sexuality. What's next?
Right.
Is it going to be disability?
Well, I think they're trying to do that as well, divide people, kind of get us to hate each other, black versus white, and stoking fires amongst us, which really we don't need to do that. But also I think they're trying to go after the children and really poison their brains when they're young. Get them to make a stupid decision or to believe stupid things when they're young. Like I read some of these children books that, are in the libraries in the West, because I do go back to Canada once in a while. And you just can't let your kids read these things. You know what I mean? Like they might have like lesbian mothers or two fathers or something like this, or just there's a lot of poisoning the minds of the youth. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess maybe losing the traditional values
for sure.
and how it was.
We
Maybe.
have to go back. The answer is not forwards; it's backwards. It's to get back to our roots and get back to ourselves as get back to the land. There was a back to the land movement in like the '60s, right? And we need something like that again, which I think is happening.
That was crushed pretty quick, and I think that had a lot to do with the movement on stuff like psilocybin and LSD, and that was that the
It was the
'60s movement, and that disappeared probably for 50, 60 years.
Well, and it was the reaction to the Vietnam War as well, and a lot of people didn't want to have anything to do with it. And then there was draft dodgers in the U.S. A lot of them moved up to Canada, and
Oh, I think you got to switch cameras. There we go. Yeah, it's interesting to even think about like when your kids will be ready to go to school, and how closely will you monitor that? Like when if you put because you by that time you don't know if Thai school can change, how the international schools change, and do you kind of have a backup plan? Like if things are getting a bit strange there, what you're gonna do?
yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to a friend the other day. He thinks that this place isn't so good for teenagers and adolescents because he was telling me stories about the drug use at like some of the international schools here, like teenagers. They were like they drug test them at the British International School, for example, and they were saying that some children bring in clean urine on days they have to do drug tests because there's that much drug use. Um, so, I mean, I would like to take them to like a small, island or a village in Canada somewhere, um, for when they get to like being teenagers, because they can probably stay out of trouble more. But I don't think there's anywhere you can hide. I think you just have to give them the right values and be a good example for them and let them make some mistakes, and hopefully those mistakes don't kill them.
I wonder what it's like in Canada in these smaller towns and their education systems. If like the mass media of education systems, like let's say your cities like Toronto or Vancouver, which are going to be very liberal. I'd be curious if you went, Prince Albert, BC. Has it reached there? I feel like that those public schools they wouldn't let it get in
No, they wouldn't let it get in. That's right.
because it's so small town.
It's
Like
such a small town. Yeah. But but in some of these hippie towns, like on the west coast of Vancouver Island, you never know, right? There's a lot of conservative people mixed in with a lot of hippies, and then who knows what they believe. But you just can't risk it, not until children are old enough to realize, okay, like this woman's just crazy, if their teacher's crazy, for example.
yeah, it's kind of along the lines is they should be educated almost down the middle,
Mm.
meaning like um, more fact based and letting people make their decisions as they go. Now, you were talking about science is the new religion. Could you expand on that?
Science is the new religion. Oh, it's just something I say, when people talk about trusting the science, and I don't believe a lot of it, because a lot of it is is funded, by the people that have an agenda. And real science is just about having a hypothesis and then questioning it and testing it. So I question the shape of the Earth, and people think, You know, haven't we proven that? Well, that's what science is just questioning everything, you know? So I think the world now is like, you can be shamed for saying so many things. You know, it takes a lot of balls to say something as crazy as that, you know, and that shouldn't be. You know, you should be able to question everything, you know, like historical events, the shape of the earth. You shouldn't be shamed or be called names for these ideas that you may have, you know. And so I try and just, you know, that's something I just say to kind of refute.
If you enjoyed this content, we're doing 5 clips like this a week. If you want to watch the full podcast, click here.